Welcome to the Lancaster Museum Art Gallery. We are opening our newest exhibition. It's called An Unforgiving Land, the Trek photography of Lee Bergthold. Lee Bergthold is an Antelope Valley College professor in photography, and he's also the founder of the Center for Wilderness Studies. He's the founder and director there, and what he does is basically prepares students to go on treks of varying lengths. They go out into deserts, really remote places where most people don't dare to tread. They can range from 3 days to 10 days to 30 days. What we have here are photographs from Lee's third 32-day-long trek. And if you take a look at the walls, as Lee was trekking across the Nevada desert, he documented what he saw, and we have them here today at the Lancaster Museum Art Gallery. Now, Lee's inspiration for doing this has always been the story of the Donner Party. Now, that, of course, most people know that those are the immigrants that were stuck in the Sierra Nevada mountains back in 1846, some of the first pioneers to California. What Lee has done in this latest trek, he did this in 2006. It was May and June 2006. And he traced the Hastings Cutoff, which is the supposed shortcut that the Donner Party used in order to try to get to California about a month early. What happened, though, is that they actually became a month late because they had to cross the Great Salt Lake Desert and the various mountain ranges where they had to blaze the trail themselves. So what happened is October 31st rolled around, and they are in the Sierra Nevada mountains, and a winter snowstorm comes in, traps them there for the next 4 months. Various relief parties had to come in from California to try to extract the immigrants from the mountains. Only about 48 of the 89 original party members survived. So Lee traced the Hastings Cutoff and experienced a little bit of what the immigrants would have experienced. They go in with nothing but what's on their back. They do have a man in the field who does help them out with food drops every 10 to 15 days. But essentially, they're walking across country and walking across this very inhospitable place. We're in the desert, so the extremes of temperature can be dramatic. Very, very cold at night and obviously very hot during the day. And we have about just over 50 works from Lee here. And his photographs take up the majority of the gallery. But we also have some documents from the Donner Party that sort of speak about their story and tell the ordeals that they went through. So we have great comparisons here between what Lee Bergthold has done and what the Donner Party experienced.
But it's great to have you here. Thank you for coming. They do a great job. This is a great show. I've known Lee for a number of years over at the college. This is a great exhibition. It sort of gives you a sense of what Lee's out there doing and make you feel like you're really there. If you want a more sense of it, Lee's collected some of the water that you see in the exhibitions, and we have samples back here for you to drink. But right now, let me introduce Nick West, who's going to talk more about Lee. So thank you very much for coming.
Thank you, Ron. Okay, welcome everybody to the Lancaster Museum Art Gallery. I just wanted to, I'll keep this pretty short. I wanted to say a few words, introduce Lee Bergthold, who is our artist tonight. And I don't know that Tina is here, is she not? No, she is not. She is not, okay. Basically, what we have here is, and Lee will talk a bit more in specifics about his trek, but in 2006, he and 3 others traced the Hastings Cutoff, which is the route that the Donner Party used to travel to California, and the route that subsequently got them caught up in the Sierras for about 4 months in the middle of winter before they were able to be rescued and brought all the way to California. It made them terribly, terribly late. So they encountered an early winter snowstorm and had to survive up there for quite a while without any food. And I think a lot of us know how that story goes. But if you don't, we have a lot of information about the Donner Party. We have some excellent images and objects from collections in Northern California. And if anything you wanted to know is up on the walls right now. And if you see something you don't want to know, I'm sorry, because it gets a little bit gruesome. But what we're really here for is Lee's work. Now, he, in a very documentary tradition, he took photographs of every step of his journey. So you'll see his photographs from Donner Spring, Utah, to Battle Mountain, Nevada, and every point along the way. And what's really great about these images is just how elegantly the brutality of the land is captured, but also its beauty and the effects that it has on those people who are living in it and who are trying to survive in it. Before I introduce Lee to talk to us a bit, I wanted to acknowledge some people who have made this exhibition possible. Let me just break out my list here. Don't want to forget anybody. Well, first and foremost, we have Lee Bergthold, who's standing right here, and you'll hear from him. I want to thank also Christine Bowers and Connie Simpkins, who have images you'll see on the walls here as well. Two of Lee's companions. Our sponsors, Lemon Leaf Cafe, who have provided the food for us that you're all enjoying, and Leona Valley Winery has provided the wine for you tonight. Also, the Lancaster Museum Art Gallery Associates for all of their support in putting together all of our exhibitions and programs. Officials from the city, I'd like to thank Ron Smith, Vice Mayor, for being here tonight, Mayor R.X. Paris, the City Council members, Sherry Marquez, Ken Mann, and Ed Cilio. City Manager Mark Bozigi and Deputy City Manager Jason Cottle, Bob Green, Director of the Parks Recreation North Department, Nicole Nutt, Al Valdivia, and all of the Parks Maintenance crew. They help us immensely in putting these things together, and they're sort of the unsung heroes of some of our exhibitions. And the also unsung heroes often are the LMAG staff, who have done a fantastic job. Everything you see, the look of the exhibition, the look of the facility, everything is due to a fantastic staff that we have here at the museum. Randy Barnaky, Carlos Chavez, Matt McGowan, Jessica Neighbors, Larissa Nickel, Sarah Niebling, and Rex Swindlehurst. We would be completely lost without them. So I want to thank them for all of their hard work and helping us to put on this exhibition tonight. One other person who needs to be recognized tonight especially is the Associate Curator, Nancy Mossman. Nancy makes this whole thing run. She is really the brains behind this operation and makes everything go. Sometimes I can't figure out how to just get things done, and Nancy always knows how to do that. And I'm very, very sad to say that Nancy won't be with us that much longer. She will be retiring at the end of this month, and we are all very sad to see her go, and but wish her the best of luck in her future endeavors. She's been with the museum for a long time, and I anticipate that you will still be with us long after your retirement as well, helping us out and keeping making things go. So a round of applause for Nancy. Nancy, will you come up here for just a second so that I'll hold your package? Please stop. So if you have a round of applause for Nancy, we've got something for you. Here, let me take this for you.
Okay, here's these keys.
Okay. We're carrying all your stuff. Aren't you supposed to be the trekker here? Yeah, we've been carrying stuff on your back. But Nancy, thank you for everything. It's been great working with you, and I think we all wish you the best of luck.
I'm the only one who can toast it because I'm the only one in the wine here.
Yeah. So everybody with their fake wine glasses, a toast to Nancy Mossman. Thank you. Thank you. Did you want to say anything?
I just want to say there's a lot of very, very familiar faces that I've worked with for several years now, and I will miss all of you. I will miss my wonderful staff. They're amazing, and like Nick said, without the staff we have, you wouldn't have the wonderful shows that we were able to put on. It's been a real pleasure for me to work with Nick. He's got a lot of great ideas. The new museum's going to go a long way, so it's hard, very hard for me. But again, thank you so very much for all your support over the years, and I'm sure I will be seeing you, and my staff I will miss tremendously. So. my kids. Thank you so much. You're beautiful, thank you. And
I would
who
also
knew
like
I
to
love
say-
tulips?
This person has been an inspiration for me. She took me in under her wings, and I couldn't have done anything without you, so I wanted you to have your own going-away present. And without further ado, go do your show.
Okay.
Thank you so very much.
Okay.
Nancy.
And you best. Excellent. Thank you.
Okay, now let's let Lee do his show. Without any further ado, thank you all for coming tonight. Really appreciate it. If you want to help support the Lancaster Museum Art Gallery, we do have our association group. We have applications at the front. Even if it's not a financial support, if you have some time to volunteer or are interested in helping us with our programs and exhibitions, we welcome participation from everybody. But now the man of the hour, Lee Bergthold.
Okay, accolades abound, and I can't really add except that, I called one day and I said, well, I've got one more shot to put in, and they said, oh, we'll get it up. And I said, well, how much time do you need? They said, we're fast. We're very fast, and I'll tell you, my schedule is so hectic that I'll tell you, Nick and I were working, in other words, I teach at the college, teach photography, and I'm there every single night from 6 to 10, 11, 12, midnight, so on and so forth, working with 100 students a week. And poor Nick, he'd have to come down after hours when I'm still working with people in the dark room, and Nick and I'd be out there in the front, he'd be with his laptop, and he'd be knocking stuff down. I have not even had a chance to see this show, trust me. I mean, I just got here, I'm leaving for 10 days tomorrow, so it's just one thing back to back, back to back. But boy, they do a tremendous job. And a lot of you people I know and I've seen down here before. A number of you I know on a personal basis. There have been shows down here before, displays that this museum staff has put together. It goes clear back to a Carlton Watkins visual perspective. It went back to a trek across from Badwater to Whitney. It was set up down here. And then the first Donner trek from Battle Mountain to Death Valley was here. And in the second trek from Death Valley to the Salt Sea, Mexican border, it was down here. And now we have the Hastings Cutoff, which is the third part. And I'll go back over these just a little bit and reiterate and put some finite details together so it makes more sense to you. Actually, this show is there's probably two factors that we can work with here. Number one, the photography angle, and number two, the Donner Party slash the Donner Party treks. I would say at this point, Nick knows more about the Donner Party than I do, because this guy really boned up for this show. I mean, I've got tons of material at home, and I've read so many books, and I've got tomes that are this big and thick and so on and so forth. But the man makes a trip up to Berkeley to the Ashcroft, or the Bancroft Library, and some of these research, and he went east and picked up some more research. My job as a trekker slash explorer is to find out where point A is and then find out where point B is, and that's my major concern. Now, as far as photography goes, the first two Donner treks, what I call escape routes, number one was going from Battle Mountain to Death Valley, where I almost lost my partner because we were working anywhere from sub-zero to 50 below zero. It was one of the worst winters to hit Nevada, probably one of their worst winters. And we made that in 35 days, 350 miles. And there's DVD on that, and there's photos on that, and so on and so forth. I mean, I could fill this museum 3 times over, okay? Then the second trek, that was back in 96, 97. And the second trek, going on from Death Valley to the Mexican border, another 350 miles, 35 days. And I was working with Christine Tina Bowers and Al Kaler. There were 3 of us. Now, the people I work with, they have to have been working with me 15, 20 years. I mean, they've got to have a lot of background. I teach survival. I was a survival instructor in the Marine Corps. Just a lot of background. Anyway, people who are going to commit to 35 days, that's a pretty good chunk of commitment right there. And then the Hastings cutoff, that's, following the Donners from out of Wyoming, and then they circled down below the Great Salt Lake, and then they hit what is now the Utah-Nevada border, and then they kept coming across, hit the Ruby Mountains, and did a big circuitous route around the bottom because of a Captain Hastings, told them about a shortcut, and that put them way behind, and by the time they got to the Sierras, Chief Truckee said, "You're way behind, don't try it. Don't try it, you're way behind," and the Donners tried it anyway, and of course they had this manifest destiny deal, the infamous death march in the Sierras and so on and so forth. So I'm not going to get into the Donner Party history. I think most of you have at least heard about the Donners. I've been interested in them since I was a kid, and I've been exploring since I was a kid. So these treks are just one of many, and I leave tomorrow for another 10 days. So why am I here and not home packing? Because we have this, and I'm just pleased as punch to be able to display this work. Now, as far as photography goes, this is the only trek that I actually used a small point-and-shoot Sony 7.2 Pix digital camera. There's nothing here that's Photoshop, okay? This is just the way you capture the film and let it go from there. By the way, there was some 350 shots that were lost on this last trek because of a malfunction from transferring camera to the to the computer to put burn onto a CD and so forth. So this is just, there's a ton, a ton more than this that were lost. And then the black and whites. The black and white photos were taken with an emergency backup $40 point-and-shoot Olympus camera, Tri-X 400 film. And you're going to see some heavy-duty grain. You're going to see some depth of field problems, some fall-off and so forth. In other words, the black and whites are not nearly as good a quality as the color. And because it was taken with an inferior camera, the negatives were rough, and I labored for almost 2 months pulling those things out of the dark room with a technique called screening or spread function, to where you break up some of the light to cut down on some of the grain structure. But nonetheless, it's the impact of the image that's so important. I've got other material I could show, but I don't want to belabor this. Now the color is from a digital point-and-shoot 7.2. No Photoshop, okay? It's either darken, lighten, which was seldom, and making sure the contrast was on, okay? And then pop out a print, and away you go. The other prints from other displays were all film. Now, I just put in some large format photos in the gift shop, not related to the show out here, but those were all taken with a big 4x5 speed graphics camera over the years. And so, pardon me, that's you have some high quality. They're big prints, high quality, high resolution. Anybody has any questions? And I'm going to drop the photography angle and move on to the actual Donner Party. I'll tell you what. Right now, outside of some of the stock material that they brought in that are not my photos, but any photo here has its own story. In other words, I write books and I write articles about these treks. Each day on a 35-dayer, that gives me 35 chapters. No doubt about it. Each day is an adventure into itself. I mean, I could go from day 1, day 2, day 3, and each day I could just story and story and story and on and on. I would venture to say, and you can try this on your own, go back to some of the photos you took 20 and 30 years ago, even further back than that. Pull out a photo, and I almost guarantee you'll say, "Oh, I remember when I took this." Not if you're in the photo, but if you took the photo. There's that intrinsic recall or reminisce that is inherent in all of us. You see, my background is psychology of visual communications. And I contend that you can take a photo and go back to it 10, 20 years from now, and it will sweep back all the memories that came with you taking that photo. It's too bad we can't take that information and apply it to chemistry or physics. I mean, you can build a little module of a molecule, but if you had to light it and photograph it, I think more information would sink into the old brain. Interesting how that goes. So if you have any questions about any of these photos, each one of these photos represents a story. But don't get me started, because I'll just go and go and go, okay? So Are there any questions about any of these photos at this point? No questions. Shall I just keep going and going and going? Nick, if you get in that bag and there's a small West Magazine article in there. That's in there somewhere, yeah. Now, I'm going to use this as an analogy. You may not get a close look at this. In fact, from a distance, this looks pretty good. This is not my photograph. This was taken by Matt Black, From Dust to Dust, a migrant family's hardscrabble life. And if you look closely at this photograph, this is a major West LA Times essay, and you will notice a lot of heavy-duty grain on this photograph. And if you slip through this, and I've only got one hand right now, but if you slip through this and look at some of the photos in here, they are hard scrabble, hardcore, very gritty, but it goes along with the ambiance, it goes along with the content of the story, and that's very important. So that's why when you look at the black and whites here, it doesn't bother me that they are grainy or a little rough on the eyes, because the grit in documentarian work comes across. I mean, if you want to portray grit and the drama of whatever you're working with, black and white definitely would be the way to go. Now, I know you can do that with digital. You can switch it over to black and white and so on and so forth. I still work with film, and I still do a lot of strange things with film, and I teach my students to do strange things with film. After all, before digital came along, we were doing exactly on film what they're doing with digital nowadays. But, of course, it gets better and better. So let me see the other packet. In fact, Nick, if you help me with that just for a minute. In fact, Nick, if you just line them along the wall here just for a little bit. Yeah. Now, this has nothing to do with the show, but I did my hard time in the Marine Corps with the 1st Marine Division in Korea. Okay, if we ever have to go back to Korea again, I'll tell you that James Grady just finished a book before he passed away entitled The Scariest Place in the World, and I will attest to that. Korea is no place to go, okay? Now, I'm not going to talk about the Marine Corps or Korea, but these 4 shots represent some of my work before they took our cameras away. And if you talk about hard scrabble or toughing it out, then this is what you have, okay? Now, these were taken with a little Ansco SpeedX camera back in the 50s, a little camera that took 120 or 620 film, black and white. So this is a documentarian type of procedure, and I'm a little bit leery about so many photos on the wall, because if you show too much, you wear the viewer out. If I had my choice of coming in here with one photograph, in fact, Nick, if you just cover those up, because we don't want to talk about those anymore. I'm just giving you an idea of what documentarian photography is about. If I had one photo in here that I could show and nothing else, I would probably show the coyote over the barbed wire fence. And I'd say, this is it. Take a look at it, and that would be your first and only impression of the whole trek, and say, well, this is it. Or if I'd go back to the other ones, I would probably show a photo of Tina melting snow when we were snowed in up on Spruce Ridge in the middle of Nevada, and nobody knew where we were. So less is better, okay? So I'm just a little bit edgy about showing so much stuff, because I always tell my students, if you ain't got it, don't show it. And if you're a writer and you haven't got the artwork, then just write it and let the imagination go from there. I was raised reading the Hardy Boys, and my sister would read Nancy Drew. And boy, your imagination just goes and goes and goes by reading books. I wasn't raised with television. I still don't have television. But television somehow robs the frontal cortex of some intrinsic value that we have lost. So there's a caveat to all this stuff. Television is great because it's moving, and you will stare at anything they put up there. Trust me, isn't that correct? Okay, one way or the other. I'm going to close and let you people, I'll field whatever questions you have favor to ask. If you want information, reference any particular photo, then we can talk about that. Like I say, every one of these photos will bring back a sweep of memories that, no problem. No problem at all. I'll tell you, folks, I appreciate you coming out. It doesn't do any good to put this stuff up and have nobody show up. This is my first time down here, too, to see the show. I mean, trust me, this Lancaster crew, with Nick and crew and staff, they put this stuff up, and we were doing it over the phone and by personal meetings away from the museum. Great job. I really appreciate it very much. Appreciate you folks coming out. A lot of people here I know, and I am pleased to see you again. Thanks for coming out.